Hello juniors, and welcome to the next video in your senior project video series. Today's goal is to learn what your specific project category requires in terms of learning and evidence. We also want to share some exciting news about the prizes that we'll be giving out related to your advisory videos. Each week you will have a task to complete at the end of the video. Sometimes this will be an online Google form quiz. It could be an activity that you write on paper and turn into your teacher. And we will be awarding a variety of prizes. Each week we will look at the juniors who have submitted their task correctly and see out of the pool of juniors who has done a good job, meaning you got all the answers right or your responses indicated that you understood and learned the point of the video. Of all the juniors who have submitted the correct answers or a quality response, we will be selecting 10 at random for that week's winners. Those winners will receive first a weekly prize, which includes things like candy, school supplies, college t-shirts, and other college gear, as well as the class of 2019 gear. However, even more exciting is those weekly winners will all be entered into a drawing for much bigger and more exciting prizes. These include homecoming bids, winter formal bids, and yearbooks at the end of the year. So really pay attention to these videos, complete the tasks associated with the video each week, and see if you can be a winner. All right, let's jump in. So when we talk about project categories, what we mean are the different types of project. For example, a science senior project, or a cosmetology senior project, or a business project, or a teaching project. This is what we mean by categories. So the first thing to remember is that when you start looking at your specific category, you must meet the minimum requirements listed on the sheet of guidelines. Let's go over some examples. All teaching projects will require 12 hours in a classroom. Again, this is not an after-school, hangout session. This is in a classroom, perhaps at an organization or a school, or it could even be like a Sunday school class, that type of thing. These 12 hours are broken very specifically into 3 phases. A phase of observation, a phase of teaching the lessons in front of the students, and a phase after teaching, which is assisting in the classroom. Coaching, again, if you look at the coaching guidelines, how many practices, how many games or matches do you need to be present and coaching and helping the team? For a business and entrepreneurship project, you will notice that you must enter the competition listed on the guidelines to pass senior defense. So why is this important? If you complete your business plan and you've done everything you're supposed to do, but you do not enter that competition, let's say you forget or you didn't realize that when the date for the competition was happening, you won't be able to pass senior defense. For things like cosmetology and barbering, you must have 7 clients. That includes your practice clients and your final clients. For baking and cooking, there is a specific required number of items that you need to bake or cook. So the reason we want to highlight these is because you can't just decide, for example, that you don't really want to bake, 3 homemade layered frosted decorated cakes. You only want to bake 1. Well, that's something that we need to discuss because all baking projects to pass senior defense must meet the minimum number of homemade layered decorated cakes served at formal events. So the guidelines are critical because every student coming up to senior defense in that category will have the same minimum requirements to pass that senior defense category. So remember that these are pretty firm, and if you have any questions about them, to come see us. So read the guidelines carefully, and we're going to do that in a moment. Next, it's critical to choose something that actually excites you and that you want to learn. Sometimes students choose the project they feel will be the easiest, and then they get a little bit upset or bored or discouraged when that category is not that easy maybe and also not very interesting to them. So when we're interested in learning something and we actually want to try something out, when things come up and we have to learn and adapt and change and try new things, we welcome that experience because it aligns with our goal of learning about that category or that discipline. When we're approaching something just as something to get over with as quickly as possible, every time we have a problem or something comes up or something takes longer than you think it will, it tends to really discourage students. And that kind of negativity comes out very clearly at senior defense. So really try to look at the categories and select something that seems like perhaps a future career path or a hobby you've been meaning to try, but you've just never had time or a reason to really take that step and try it. So choosing something that you actually want to learn and spend your time on will really help the entire process, beginning to end. Finally, when you look at the guidelines and when we look at the proposal next week, you're going to want to look at the My Evidence section or documentation. So My Evidence is documentation. These are the items that are required to pass senior defense. And we're going to take a look at some examples in a moment. But these items are important and they are required. Again, just like the requirements, you can't just decide that you don't want to do this or that. The requirements for the categories are there to prove your learning and to prove that you did the project. So pay special attention to the documentation evidence. So now we want to emphasize some important information that all proposals and all projects require. First, each proposal will require you to list 5 important skills that you will learn. So this project is all focused on your learning. We want you to think about skills that are actually aligned to your category. So we really want to stay away from things like time management or working with people. I'm going to learn communication skills, or I'm going to learn how not to procrastinate. These are just too general and they're not really bound to your category, and they're very difficult to prove. So when you look at the guidelines, look at some of the example learning steps. These are things that will help you focus on what's required, what skills you'll need to learn from the consultant or from online resources that will help you actually complete that final product. So again, that will vary by category, but it is required that each person has 5 skills of learning. Next, each project will require 15 photos and 6 video clips as part of the documentation. So what this means is throughout the course of your project, beginning, middle, and end, we are going to ask that you produce photo and video that you will eventually upload to your online portfolio and YouTube, showing you working on the project. It is critical that you are in each photo and that you are in each video. For instance, if you have been doing a haircutting project and you simply have pictures of your clients, we don't know that you are the one there working on their haircuts and working with those clients. So you should be in every photo and video. The video requirement is broken down into 2 videos from the beginning where you're telling us your goals, what you hope to learn, 2 from the middle of the project showing your progress and any challenges, and 2 from the final stages where you're telling us and showing us your final product and what you've been working on to synthesize your learning from the beginning. Each category will also have other types of evidence in the documentation evidence section. This can include notes or practice pieces, or if you're doing construction or landscaping, it might include a safety test, or receipts if you had to purchase something. So every category has a little bit different type of evidence of that initial learning. And finally, we are really looking for a new challenge, a clear stretch. You will be asked to justify your project choice and explain why it's a stretch for you, why it's a new skill. You need to be sure it's not something you've done before or that you're currently doing. So if you're on, for example, the soccer team, playing soccer cannot be your senior project. If you've already been playing piano for the last 5 years, a piano performance cannot be your senior project. However, we can take that desire to learn more about piano, turning it into teaching music lessons, or we can turn it into a scrapbook all about the history of, various piano composers and the symphonic movements, perhaps around town or nationally. So there's a lot we can do with your interest, but your project should not be something that you're already currently doing. So now we want to give you time to go to the Senior Project website on your Chromebook and click on the specific project guidelines. Take 5 minutes reading the guidelines listed for the category that you choose. Try to read closely. If you scan, chances are you're going to miss something, and it's going to be much harder when you come to start the proposal next week to remember exactly what's required. So read it carefully. Then you're going to take the quiz. To find the quiz, go back to the Senior Project webpage and you will see a link for the Class of 2019 Junior Advisory videos. When you click on that list, it will take you to a Google Doc. Find today's date of August 30th, and then you will see a link to the quiz underneath. Remember, there is no rush to hurry to complete the quiz. The prizes are not awarded to the first juniors who finish. At the end of lunch, we will close the quiz, and then over the next few days, we will look at your responses. Of the juniors who have submitted a complete quiz with correct and high-quality answers, we will choose 10 winners at random. These winners will be notified by email to come and see us for their prize, and then they'll be entered in that drawing for those exciting prizes towards the end of the term. Thank you so much for your time. Go ahead to the Senior Project website to find your project category guidelines and take the quiz. We'll see you next week.